Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Welcome to Superhero Academy. I am Crossfire the Crusader, and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes in our new condensed half-hour format. And joining me today, I have area code 504. Is this Captain Black? Hello, area code 504. I have a caller. Area code 504, you're on Superhero Academy. I don't know that he can hear me. Hello? At any rate, ladies and gentlemen, today we are expected to call in from Captain Black, who's going to be our visiting professor today, and we're going to take a few moments to honor the life of a civil rights icon. On her day after her birthday, Rosa Parks' birthday was yesterday, February the 4th, and we want to honor her as one of the examples of somebody who took a stand against injustice and has changed the world just by simply refusing to give us a bus seat. How much would not have happened had she just done as she was told and obeyed the rule that was given to her, that she stood up against that injustice, she made a decision, she put herself on the line, and she changed the world for everybody. And we want to take a moment just and thank her. We know she's no longer with us, but of course the impact that she had on the world was just amazing, on the United States, on the world, of the civil rights movement, and we want to thank her right here and now on Superhero Academy for what she has done. And now let me try again. Area code 504, can you hear me? Hello. Area code 504, you're on Superhero Academy.
This is Captain Black. How you doing today?
We got you now. I'm having some switchboard issues, I think, Captain Black. Thank you for calling in.
You know, this is a very timely...
Pardon?
I'm sorry, so this is a very timely and important topic, and I'm glad you had the foresight to talk about it.
Oh, definitely. We were actually able to talk about Martin Luther King a couple of weeks ago. It was one of my favorite shows we've done. And I wanted to just take a moment when I saw that, as I looked at my calendar, that it was Rosa Parks' birthday, and just acknowledge that, Martin Luther King was not the only person that made sacrifices in the civil rights movement, and she actually, her decision set off the bus boycott. That it's phenomenal how quickly it impacted that whole movement. That over a year of nobody in the black community riding the buses there in Alabama. I mean, it was what she did.
I mean, and the beauty of what she did was she helped end a domestic form of totalitarianism that visibly repressed black people, but invisibly repressed all Americans. Because, and think about the time period, every time the United States talked about promoting democracy during the Jim Crow era, the Soviet Union could say, well, what about how you treat black people in the South?
Right.
What about how you treat black people in the North? So one simple act had so many profoundly transformative impacts on local, state, national and even international realities. And particularly as members of what the media calls real-life superhero movement, hers is the type of heroism that doesn't necessarily require physical combat or cameras, but it's simply one act of conscience that in turn leads to opening doors to people born and unborn at the time of that act. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's well worth studying because it shows really the power. Right? It really shows the power of good intentions.
And it shows the impact of just taking a stand, even if it's just one time, that impact, taking a stand for what's right.
Oh, yeah.
Have on the world.
Well, like I tell people, as you look at combating hunger, homelessness, for instance, the U.S. government spends billions of dollars trying to combat hunger and homelessness. You've got the major nonprofits like the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the charities, and others doing the same thing. We can be paralyzed by the enormity and say, well, what can I do if these guys are doing all this and people are still homeless and hungry? My point is, don't be paralyzed by the enormity of the challenge in front of you. Just resolve to do whatever you can within the parameters of your creativity and your resources and your network of people. If you do that, you've done your job. And the more you're able to do, the more good and the more impact you're able to have. But if you're paralyzed by the enormity of the problem, you only help contribute to the problem growing and becoming more deeply entrenched.
There's an old proverb that says, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
And these large problems, you just take it one bite at a time. Now, Captain Black, I got you on here today. Like I said, we are saluting Rosa Parks, her life, her decision, and the influence of that. But also, I want to hear all about Captain Black. I've read your blogs. I've heard you on other interviews and such. But I want to hear about what Captain Black stands for, what Captain Black teaches. The floor is yours. Just enlighten us with the
sure, not a problem.
Message you share with everybody.
Black, in this context, is an acronym that stands for brotherhood, loyalty, ability, courage, and kindness. These are the principles that I promote. I do it through any number of mediums. I'm a published writer. I'm a public speaker. I'm an anti-crime advocate. I'm a security consultant. I put all these different fields under one umbrella and call it Captain Black because, like you and like so many others, comic books and heroic fiction have been lifelong inspiration. And my task is to not promote solely a Lone Ranger mindset. Yes, each of us has a responsibility to be a concerned citizen, even if you're a creative one like many of us, but to try to mobilize numbers of people to get off the bleachers of humanitarianism and get out there on the playing field and do whatever they can to address hunger and homelessness or hopelessness or crime within the parameters of their comfort zones, their resources, and their network of friends and professional associates. And this is a drum I've been beating for 20 years. And even though I believe and advocate living a life without limits, I never thought you could be a real-life superhero until 2008. While internet surfing, I came across people, creative activists, who the media call real-life superheroes. And from there, I said, well, hey, if other folks are doing it, I know I can do it too. And it's been a beautiful and rewarding experience because people are happy to know that somebody is trying to not only come to the rescue, but get them in turn to rescue themselves and others. See, for me, it's a collaborative effort. I think that real-life superhero activists have the opportunity to be drum majors like Dr. King, like Rosa Parks, and others, not only for their own self-expression, but also to mobilize other people to do the same or better. So that's the basic theory and practice of Captain Black in a nutshell. And it can get frustrating. It means helping people on a sneaker string budget because most of us are not wealthy. Most of us are at best working middle-class citizens globally. It means having to accept that violence, ridicule, and all these negatives can be part of the process, because simply because you're out there doing good does not guarantee you a warm or pleasant reception. You know, I just had a situation where I ejected somebody from a restaurant where I was working. Of course, he said that he wants to call the police. So now we get a day in court where he can give his side of the argument and I can give mine. But my side of the argument would only contain the facts of the case, but will also say that if citizens are supposed to ignore self-defense statutes, then we in turn become hostages to people who will terrorize us in our homes, in our places of business, in our places of worship. And after I give the facts, I'm just get out to the judge and say, what is the alternative? Let someone beat on you? Let someone berate you and your coworkers in your place of business? Or take reasonable, lawful measures to intervene? You know, every day, each of us could potentially be faced with a scenario where he has to choose to either be, as I say in one of my quotes, a hero or a hostage in society. Not talking about vigilantism, not talking about running around picking fights, but simply saying, if you see a situation, will you dial 911? Furthermore, assertive, will you speak out? Be even more bold, like yourself with the attempted murder that you stopped. Will you personally place yourself between a victim and a prospective victimizer? These are the types of questions, and these are the types of recommendations that I've been making for over 20 years. You know, even though I've been Captain Black City since 2008, I've been doing this for roughly 20 years now. So that's it in a nutshell. And as you know, as a communicator, I write about it, and thanks to shows like yours, I occasionally get the opportunity to talk about it, to try to help promote this concept of people firsthand, personally, addressing these problems instead of waiting for somebody else to do so. So that's it. That's me, Captain Black, in a nutshell.
And that's quite a nutshell there, too. I mean, your message is so simple, it's so powerful. I've just been in awe every time I've read something you've written, and it's just the wisdom of this world is actually such a simple thing when you look at it. It's just there's right, there's wrong. You do what's right, you don't do what's wrong.
Exactly.
And you present a message that.
And I tell people, being good is boring.
Understandable.
Yeah.
You know, you don't try to get so complex that people can't understand. You just put it in black and white. That's how it is. This is what you're supposed to do. Now, I'm going to invite callers in here. Anybody else that has a question for Captain Black? The lines are open. It's area code 917-889-3317. That again is 917-889-3317. And this is Crossfire the Crusader here with Captain Black. Captain Black, let me ask you, since you've been doing this, you said for 20 years, could you share with us some of the success stories, some of the ways that your message has taken root and impacted the world that you've been blessed to witness?
Well, in 2004, my mother died, and I had the occasion, after her death, to be able to make a $10,000 donation to my college Model United Nation team so that they could go, in her name, to Scotland to compete in the Harvard World Model United Nations. She was my Model UN sponsor when I attended Savannah State College, and I, in turn, in her name, was able to sponsor other people. That's one example. There are countless numbers of interventions and situations where I've stuck my nose in and been able to do some good in some people's lives. Hold on a second. How you doing, bro?
Just come pick that stuff up tomorrow, man. I can't pick my shit up, man.
Okay.
Just bring it through tomorrow and pick it up.
All right. There you go.
What time you coming through, man?
11 o'clock.
That's cool.
All right.
I feel like picking that shit up for weeks. Like grabbing and putting weeks for him. All at once. I'm grabbing them by myself, man.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, you're still there. I still hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was having a conversation with somebody. But I think one thing I'm really proud of is things like climbing a fire department ladder to help bring some comfort to an 85-year-old neighbor of mine in my old neighborhood who had gotten a new alarm system, gotten new keys for her doors, and of course lost the keys and became very flustered. And I'll never forget it. I went in there talking to her, but she couldn't find it. This is somebody that I had literally grown up with, so I was very familiar with her. So finally, the captain, he sighed and said, "Go on up there." Which, when you think about in today's risk-averse society, if I would have fallen off a ladder or something, there could have been the potential for lawsuits and all this bad publicity. But little things like that, getting fugitives captured in my hometown, talking to young people, talking to young men who are, because they know me in the community, will come to me and just at least seek some advice. Now, I'm not Dr. King. I'm not going to give you some great speech that's going to change your world. That's not my gift. But being a known quantity who shows concern for people allows people a certain level of comfort. And that particular, if you want to say, brand of mine, I consider that to be a notable achievement because it's too late after someone has gotten in trouble. It's too late after somebody's committed suicide. It's too late after someone is kicked out of his house. It's too late after someone has gotten on drugs. But if we can be a shoulder to lean on, a listening ear, a helping hand, those are achievements I think that are as valuable or more so than the Nobel Prizes and the huge multi-billion-dollar donations that a select few are able to do. The greatest type of humanitarian achievement, I feel, is being something that people know they can turn to, in their relationships, in their given unity, in their hometown.
See, I look around today, and I remember when I was young. It seems like such a different world now than it was then. It shouldn't be. I can remember getting the truck stuck out hauling firewood in the woods, and we'd walk down to the neighbor's farm that we never talked to, and they'd bring their tractor out, and they'd come pull our truck out just because they knew, oh, yeah, you're the kid that lives down the road, Today, in many places, you don't dare go to somebody's house that you don't know and say, I need some help, because you don't know what you're walking into. And I like
that sense of community has been lost. And let's be honest, as society has devolved or evolved, take your pick, we're finding that the further you stretch definitions of reality and personal choice, some pretty ugly things are being revealed. And like you said, knocking on your neighbor's door may actually create more problems than solve, depending on what that particular neighbor may be into.
It's a sad fact, and I looked as I started doing Superhero Academy here. I've looked at the lives and the actions of many people, and when I look at Captain Black, I see somebody who is crossing racial lines, crossing financial lines, society's lines, and just saying those lines don't exist. I'm a human being. You're a human being. How can I help you?
Exactly.
Other people to do the same, and it's like, wow.
I mean, we need to keep it very simple. I mean, the more esoteric you get, and it can get pretty deep, because the simple concept of good really is not so simple once you dig into it. But just trying to promote a consciousness, a set of habits where people are out there giving of themselves and their resources more, ultimately helps create a better society. And whether you do it with a snazzy code name and flashy outfits, or whether you do it in a more traditional fashion, is irrelevant. My whole thrust is that you're out there doing it, that you're actively helping, and that you're actively promoting the culture of service, individual, personal service, instead of waiting for huge government agencies or big charities to shoulder the burden. Because guess what? With all their money and all their prestige, these problems are still too big for them to handle. Every day, we pass by people who either aren't being helped efficiently by public and private providers, or aren't being helped at all by either because they haven't been plugged in. So opportunity is there. If you want to help, it's not like you have to fill out an application to be able to help people. You don't. All you have to do is help.
The sad thing I've seen is there's so many people that when they see an issue, like they see a homeless person, and they're immediately, what church program, what government program, or where can I send them? You know, and you've got a person here on the street, and they're looking for something to eat, and you're trying to match them up to a program or match them up to
I mean, look, I got a call at 4 in the morning.
Do like a pastor locally here I talked to a while back. He was talking to a homeless person on the street, and the guy was hungry. He said, come with me. And he took him to the all-you-can-eat buffet and said, man, have a ball. And so that's what he needed. He didn't need a program. He didn't need a government hand. He just needed something to eat. And he got him something to eat, and the guy was,
Think about it. You don't need to fill out a 15-page form. If somebody comes up to you and says he's hungry and you got some money, get him something to eat.
Exactly.
Very simple.
I love to quote the Bible, where he says, Jesus said, you helped me. He said, you helped the person who was hungry and you fed him. I was naked and you clothed me.
That's right.
Said, he doesn't say I was homeless and you sent me to this program down here to fill out an application.
There is no commandment that says thou shalt refer this to a larger institution.
No. The largest institution that we need to be referring to in the immediate is, for me, it's Crossfire. For you, it's Captain Black. And for, Hero X out here, it's Hero X. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I got a call at 4 in the morning from someone who'd been put out of her house at night point. Now, at that point, am I supposed to refer this to organizations who, A, are not staffed at that moment, and A1, are not even open at that moment? Or do I take some form of action? I took some form of action. Am I some great guy? No. But I'm a human being who recognizes fellow human beings' pain and attempts to address it consistently.
Exactly. The greatest sin mentioned in the Bible is not murder, not thieving, not anything else, but the sin of inaction. When you have the ability to do good, you deny that to somebody else. Or do not offer that to someone else. That is considered the worst of the sins. Because you have the ability to do good and you ignore it. That apathy, that indifference, that failure to act. We have made a choice to be creative activists, to get out there and try and impact our world. But, I remember when I auditioned for Who Wants to Be a Superhero.
Okay.
It seems like 100 years ago in a different life. But on the way from the hotel to the audition, it had snowed the night before, and there was a car with a flat tire parked at the edge of the parking lot. And they were just finishing changing the tire up, and I joked and I said, I bet that was a test that whoever stopped and changed the tire gets to be on the TV show. But, I look back on that, and it's like, today I would probably stop and change the tire. I would probably stop, at least offer to help to change the tire. No matter whether I'm dressed in my Crossfire outfit or my Easter Bunny or Santa Claus.
Not about the costume; it's about the content of your character.
It's about what's inside, And of course, I'm known to act when I'm wearing nothing but swim trunks. So I'm a whole different person.
You definitely hit a high mark with that. Because the point is, as you know, the call of glory rarely comes at a convenient time. I've had a bunch of situations jump off early in the morning when, you know, you're half unconscious with sleep.
In the time that I was managing the motel over at Pine Bluff, I don't know. I got to where I slept in my shorts instead of just underwear because I never know when I had to get up and run outside and break up a fight or something. And I wanted to make sure I had on.
You have to have the readiness. That has to be pre-existent. It just can't be, well, if the emergency will happen at a convenient time period, you know, like you're trying to schedule reservations or appointments, life doesn't work that way. No matter how creative.
The criminal element has a tendency not to follow that schedule anyway. So they're obviously not been informed they're supposed to schedule things when it's convenient. But it's I look back on during that time, and I instructed my desk clerks to make a report anytime anything happened and turn that over to our security people and send a copy to the owner of what was going on. And there was one incident that there was a fight in our lobby. I came out and I broke the fight up, and afterwards the desk clerk hands me the report. She got this long detail of how the report started, and then it says, and then I came out, she names my name, and stopped everything. And that was it, just concise. I'm like, wow. And everybody's like, that just suffices. I came out and stopped everything. To me, it was a lot more detailed because, of course, I had talked with the police. They explained to me that I'm not allowed to tell somebody I'm going to bust their head open or anything like that, you know. And I mean, I got bad with these people, put them on the floor and had them waiting for the police when they got there, had my bat and everything. I'm real fond of that baseball bat for some reason. But
well, you know, it's an excellent visual deterrent.
That's my superpower. I have the ball bat or the nightstick, you know.
There you go.
Cool, whatever it is.
Henry has a hammer, you have your baseball bat. Sounds good to me.
Exactly. You know, if it keeps me alive and settles everything down and they can just say I stepped out and everything ended, I'll go with it. But I like that as an epitaph. I like to see me come up, any of us come up to a situation like that. We've got about 2 minutes, people, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. Captain Black, I want to thank you for being such an example, for coming on the show. I'm going to stay after the show a little bit. We got about 5 or 10 minutes after the show goes off the air, and I'm going to kind of give a teaser for next week, but thank you for calling in. You're welcome to call in anytime, be part of the conversation in the weeks to come, and of course,
sure. And if I
go back and check out the
2011 and life is be your own superhero.
Definitely. And everybody check the archives, and this will be on the archives as a podcast. I'm going to go on ahead and do our closing theme. Thank you, Captain Black, for being here, and for Crossfire Academy. See you next week. Same cross time, same cross channel.
We're men. We're men in light. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men. We're men in time. We run from the rich and give to the poor. That's right. We may look like cities, but what would you say, or else we'll put out your light? We're men. We're men in light. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. La 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 We're men, manly men, we're men in sight. Yeah, we roam around the forest looking for fight. We're men in time. We run from the rich and give to the poor. That's right. We may look like candy, but don't get us wrong or else we'll put out your light. We're men in tight, tight, tight. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. When you're in a fix, just call for the men in tight. We're bunch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick teaser for next week. Those of you that listen to the podcast will catch this. We are going to have our special guest next week is going to be our visiting professor, Golden Valkyrie. and we will be covering the real life St. Valentine, just as we did at Christmas with St. Nicholas. We're going to look at the life of St. Valentine and the good works associated with that legendary personality, I should say. So look forward next week to our special Valentine's issue episode of Superhero Academy. Thank you again for Captain Black for being on the show, and for everybody that listened in. Goes to Nixon, Le'Veon, Lord Malignance, Midnight Detective, and so many others. I appreciate you being on the show. The new half-hour format's going to take some getting used to. I wish we could have kept going a little longer, but thank you for being a regular patron of Superhero Academy, and do join us next week. We've got several good callers coming up in the days and weeks to come, and we will continue Superhero Academy as long as we can come up with some relevant topics and some awesome guests. And thank you again. Y'all have a blessed day. See you next week, same cross time, same cross channel. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Good day.